I died in a white dress, holding a champagne glass, at what I thought was my own wedding reception. The glass slipped from my fingers as poison burned through my veins. The last thing I saw was my husband, my David, kissing the bride. Not me. My best friend Sophie. The last thing I heard was Sophie's whisper as she caught me before I fell. Did you really think he'd choose you over me? My name is Claire Anderson, and I died at 28 years old, poisoned by my best friend at her wedding to my husband, wearing the white dress I'd bought for my own ceremony that never happened. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in a coffee shop, 25 years old, watching David walk through the door with a woman I'd never seen before. A woman with auburn hair and green eyes. A woman who smiled at me like we were about to become best friends. Sophie. This was the day we met her. The day everything began. I remembered every detail of my first timeline. David and I had been dating for 3 years when we'd stopped at this coffee shop on a rainy Saturday. A woman at the next table had spilled her coffee, and I'd given her napkins. We'd started talking. She'd been new in the city, working as a social media manager, looking for friends. I'd invited her to dinner. Within 6 months, she was my best friend. Within 2 years, she'd moved into the apartment next to ours by coincidence. Within 3 years, she'd stolen my life and killed me for it. Claire? You okay? David's voice brought me back. He was holding the door open, waiting for me. I'm fine, I said, standing up. Actually, I need to use the restroom. Order without me. Sure. The usual. Yeah. I walked to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall, breathing hard. This was real. I was really here 3 years before my death, about to watch Sophie enter my life for the first time. I had a choice. I could walk out of this coffee shop and never look back. I could tell David we needed to leave immediately. I could prevent this entire nightmare from starting. But I needed to know. Was Sophie always planning this? Had she targeted us specifically? Or had she become a monster gradually? I needed answers before I could protect myself. I went back to the table. David had ordered, and the woman at the next table, Sophie, was dabbing at a coffee stain on her white blouse with napkins. Oh no, she said, her voice carrying that helpless tone I now recognized as calculated. This is my favorite shirt. In my original timeline, I'd immediately offered to help. I'd been kind, sympathetic, eager to assist. This time I kept eating my muffin. David glanced at me, surprised. Normally I was the first to help anyone in distress. Sophie looked over, making eye contact with me. Her expression shifted, calculating, assessing. Excuse me, she said to me directly. Do you happen to have any stain remover? Or know a good cleaner nearby? There's a dry cleaner 3 blocks north, I said without looking up. Oh, okay. Thank you. She sounded uncertain now, thrown off by my coldness. David was staring at me. Claire, are you sure you're okay? You're acting weird. I'm fine. Just tired. Sophie gathered her things and left the coffee shop. I watched her go through the window, and our eyes met one last time. Something flickered in her expression. Recognition? Calculation? A challenge? That was kind of rude, David said quietly. Was it? You usually help people. She's an adult. She can handle a coffee stain. David looked confused but let it go. We finished our coffee and left. Over the next week I waited. In my original timeline, Sophie had coincidentally shown up at the gym David and I attended. She'd struck up a conversation with me in the locker room, mentioned she was new in town and looking for a workout buddy. I'd introduced her to David. We'd all started working out together. Within a month we were inseparable. This time when Sophie appeared at the gym, I recognized her immediately. Oh my God, it's you, she said with manufactured surprise when she saw me in the locker room. From the coffee shop. What a small world. It is, I said neutrally. I never properly thanked you for the dry cleaner recommendation. It totally saved my shirt. She smiled warmly. I'm Sophie, by the way. Claire. Do you come here often? I just joined. I don't really know anyone in the city yet. I come occasionally. There was an awkward pause. In my original timeline, I'd immediately invited her to work out with me and David. I'd felt sorry for her being new and alone. Now I just changed my clothes and left. Sophie tried again the next week. And the week after that. Each time I was polite but distant. Why are you being so cold to that girl? David asked after the third encounter. She's clearly trying to make friends. If you want to be friends with her, go ahead. That's not what I meant. You're usually more welcoming. People can be friendly without being friends. David looked at me like I was a stranger. In our 3 years together, I'd never been this guarded. I'd always been warm, open, trusting. In my original life, that warmth had killed me. 1 month after the coffee shop, Sophie's strategy changed. She stopped trying to befriend me and started targeting David directly. She began showing up at his favorite lunch spot near his office. She'd be there by coincidence when he arrived, always alone, always looking slightly sad and lost. David mentioned her to me. I keep running into that woman from the gym. Sophie. She seems really lonely. That's unfortunate. Claire, seriously, what's wrong with you? Why are you being so cold about this? I'm not being cold. I just don't feel obligated to adopt every lonely person we encounter. That's not like you at all. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do. The fight escalated. David accused me of becoming cynical and closed off. I accused him of being too naive and trusting. We went to bed angry for the first time in our relationship. The next day, David had lunch with Sophie. He told me about it that evening. I felt bad about how you've been treating her, so I invited her to join me for lunch. She's really nice, Claire. She's been through a lot. Moved here for a job that fell through. Doesn't know anyone. I think we should give her a chance. You can be friends with her if you want. I'm not stopping you. But she wants to be friends with both of us. She keeps asking about you. I looked at David, kind, trusting David who couldn't imagine that someone might have ulterior motives. Fine. Invite her to dinner. Let's all get to know each other. David's face lit up. Really? Thank you, babe. I know she'll be so happy. I wasn't doing this to make Sophie happy. I was doing this to watch her closely, to understand her game before she could play it. Sophie came to dinner at our apartment the following weekend. She brought wine and flowers, wore a modest dress, and spent the evening being charming without being flirtatious. She asked about our jobs, our relationship, our dreams. She listened attentively and shared just enough about herself to seem genuine without revealing anything real. I'd seen this performance before. In my original timeline, I thought she was perfect friend material, sweet, interested, authentic. Now I saw it for what it was. An audition. After she left, David was glowing. She's great, isn't she? I'm glad we did this. Maybe you'll warm up to her now. Maybe I lied. Over the next 6 months, Sophie inserted herself into our lives systematically. She joined our gym officially. She started attending our church. She got a job at a company in David's building. She was everywhere, always there, always friendly, always just a little bit lonely, so that refusing her company seemed cruel. And David ate it up. He saw himself as her protector, her friend in a city where she had no one. He invited her to our game nights. He helped her move into a new apartment, which happened to be in our building 3 floors down. Isn't it great? He said excitedly. Now Sophie's right here if she needs anything. I smiled and said nothing. In my original timeline, I'd been excited too. Now I just watched and waited. I started documenting everything. I took notes on Sophie's stories, looking for inconsistencies. I searched her social media. Carefully, privately, looking for clues about who she really was. What I found disturbed me. Sophie's social media presence only went back 2 years. Everything before that had been deleted or never existed. She claimed to have gone to college in California, but I couldn't find her in any alumni directories. She said she'd worked at 3 different companies before moving here. But when I discreetly contacted those companies, none had any record of her employment. Sophie's entire history was fabricated. I hired a private investigator. His name was Nathan Chan, a retired police detective who specialized in background checks. I didn't tell David. I need to know who someone really is, I told Nathan. Everything about her seems fake. What's your relationship to this person? She's trying to become my best friend. And I think she's dangerous. Nathan didn't ask for details. He just took the information I had and told me he'd call when he found something. 3 weeks later he called. We need to meet in person. We met at a diner across town. Nathan slid a folder across the table to me. Your instincts were right, he said. Sophie Martin isn't her real name. It's Sophie Williams. And she has a history. I opened the folder. Inside were police reports, news articles, and photographs. Sophie had done this before. At least 3 times that Nathan could document. In Portland, she befriended a couple named Jessica and Tom. Within 18 months, Tom had left Jessica for Sophie. Jessica had attempted suicide. Tom and Sophie had been engaged for 6 months before Sophie disappeared with Tom's savings. In Denver, she befriended a woman named Amanda and her husband Rick. Within 2 years, Rick and Sophie were together. Amanda was in a psychiatric facility, and Sophie had vanished with access to Amanda's family trust fund. In Seattle, she targeted Sarah and Michael. That relationship had ended with Sophie fleeing the state after Sarah had filed a restraining order. Michael had disappeared. There were questions about whether he was hiding from debts or if something worse had happened. This woman is a predator, Nathan said. She targets stable couples, befriends the woman, seduces the man, and then destroys both of them financially and emotionally. Why? I whispered. That's above my pay grade. But my guess? She likes the game. The challenge of taking something that belongs to someone else. Or maybe she just can't form genuine connections, so she steals other people's instead. I stared at Sophie's photo from her Portland days. She looked younger, her hair was different, but the eyes were the same, calculating, empty, predatory. Thank you, I said to Nathan. What do I owe you? Consider it pro bono. I don't like seeing people like her get away with this. He paused. You need to go to the police with this. And tell them what? That she's befriending my husband? That's not illegal. Tell them about her pattern. About the other couples. Get ahead of this. I will. But first I need more evidence. Nathan studied my face. You're planning something. I'm planning to protect myself. And to make sure she can't do this to anyone else. After Nathan left, I sat in that diner for hours staring at the folder. In my original timeline, I died never knowing the truth about Sophie. I thought she was my friend who'd fallen in love with my husband. I thought it was a tragic love triangle. Now I knew the truth. I'd been hunted, marked, destroyed by someone who did this for sport. I went home and found David and Sophie on our couch watching a movie. They weren't touching, weren't sitting too close, but there was an ease between them that hadn't been there a month ago. Hey babe, David said. We were just watching that documentary you wanted to see. Join us. Actually, Sophie, can I talk to you for a minute? In private. Sophie's eyes flickered with something. Surprise? Calculation? Of course. We went to the kitchen. I closed the door. I know who you are, I said quietly. Sophie's friendly expression didn't change. I'm sorry. Sophie Williams. Portland. Denver. Seattle. I know what you do. For a long moment Sophie just looked at me. Then her face transformed. The warmth disappeared, replaced by cold calculation. Prove it, she said simply. I have a folder full of police reports. From other cities about someone who isn't here anymore. Someone who has nothing to do with me. They're about you. Are they? Do those reports mention my current name? My current address? Can you prove I'm the same person? She smiled. I don't think you can. I have investigators. Who will tell you exactly what I tell the police if you're stupid enough to go to them. That I'm a new resident who's made friends with a local couple. That there's no crime being committed. That you're paranoid and possibly mentally unstable. I felt cold. She'd done this before. She knew exactly how to protect herself legally. Stay away from David, I said. Or what? You'll tell him your crazy conspiracy theories? Go ahead. She leaned closer. He won't believe you. He thinks you've been acting strange for months. Distant. Cold. Paranoid. If you start making accusations about me now, who do you think he'll believe? His girlfriend who's been acting weird? Or his friend who's been nothing but supportive? He loves me. He loved the old you. The trusting, warm kind you. But you're not that person anymore, are you? She smiled. You changed the moment you saw me in that coffee shop. And he's noticed. He's told me all about how worried he is about you. My blood ran cold. You're manipulating him. I'm being his friend. Listening to his concerns. Being there for him when his girlfriend is pulling away. She opened the kitchen door. Keep acting paranoid, Claire. It only helps me. By the time David realizes what's happening, you'll already be gone. She walked back to the living room, her friendly mask sliding back into place. Everything okay? She asked David sweetly. Yeah, I said, following her. Everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. Sophie had been planning this carefully. She documented my strange behavior since day one. She'd positioned herself as the concerned friend while I'd positioned myself as the paranoid, cold girlfriend. I was losing David and I didn't know how to stop it. That night I tried to talk to David about Sophie. I started carefully, not mentioning Portland or Denver or the private investigator. David, I'm concerned about Sophie. I don't think she's who she says she is. What do you mean? Her history doesn't check out. Her social media only goes back 2 years. Her employment history has gaps. You've been investigating her? David looked horrified. I've been cautious. That's not cautious, Claire. That's invasive and paranoid. David, please listen. No, you listen. Sophie is lonely and new in town. And instead of being kind to her, you've been treating her like a criminal. What's wrong with you? I'm trying to protect us. From what? From a woman who wants to be our friend? Do you hear how crazy that sounds? I'm not crazy. Then why are you acting like it? David stood up, pacing. Ever since we met Sophie, you've been different. Cold. Suspicious. This isn't the woman I fell in love with. I'm trying to keep us safe. We don't need to be kept safe from someone being friendly. He ran his hands through his hair. I think you need to talk to someone. A therapist. Because this paranoia isn't healthy. After that fight, David suggested we take a break. Just a few days, he said. To cool down. To think about things. I moved in with my sister Amy for a week. Every day David sent short, distant texts. Every night, Sophie's Instagram showed her hanging out with David, keeping him company while Claire's away. As she put it in her captions, Amy was furious. That bitch is making her move while you're gone. I know. So go back. Fight for him. I did fight. He thinks I'm crazy. Then show him proof. Show him the investigator's report. He won't believe it. He'll say I fabricated it because I'm jealous. So what's your plan? Give up. I thought about my original timeline. About dying in that white dress, poisoned by someone I trusted completely. About 3 years of friendship that had been a lie from day one. I'm not giving up, I said. I'm regrouping. When I returned to our apartment, David was distant but civil. Sophie's presence was everywhere. Her coffee mug in our kitchen, her jacket on our coat rack, her laughter echoing in the halls. We need to talk, I told David that evening. Okay. I love you. And I know I've been acting strangely. But I need you to trust me about Sophie. Claire. Just hear me out. I'm not saying she's evil. I'm just saying something feels off. And I need you to trust my instincts. David was quiet for a long time. Your instincts have been wrong before. When? You thought your business partner was stealing from you last year. You were convinced. Turned out it was just an accounting error. He was right. I'd been paranoid about fraud that hadn't existed. It made my current concerns about Sophie look like a pattern. That was different. Was it? Or are you just suspicious of people by nature? I'm trying to protect us. By pushing away everyone who tries to get close? That's not protection, Claire. That's isolation. Over the next 6 months, I watched my original timeline repeat itself with slight variations. Sophie and David grew closer. I grew more distant. But this time I was doing it intentionally, gathering evidence, building a case, preparing for the moment when Sophie would make her move. I stayed in contact with Nathan, who continued investigating. We found more victims, couples in different cities, different names, same pattern. We found evidence of identity theft, fraud, manipulation. But none of it would hold up in court because Sophie was too good at covering her tracks legally. She's like a ghost, Nathan said. She exists just enough to function in society, but not enough to be prosecuted for anything. There has to be something. There is. But you're not going to like it. What? We let her complete her pattern. We document everything. And we catch her in the act. You mean I lose David and my life to catch her? I mean, we make her think she's winning so she gets confident. Confident people make mistakes. I thought about my original timeline, about dying without justice, without Sophie ever facing consequences. Okay, I said. Let's do it. For the next year I played my role perfectly. I was the paranoid, jealous girlfriend slowly losing her relationship. David was the confused, guilty boyfriend pulled between his girlfriend and his friend. And Sophie was the innocent friend caught in the middle. Except I was wearing a wire. And Nathan had surveillance cameras installed in public places where Sophie and David met. We were documenting everything, every manipulation, every lie, every calculated move. On my 27th birthday, David broke up with me. I love you, he said, crying. But I can't do this anymore. You're not the woman I fell in love with. You've become so suspicious, so cold. I feel like I'm living with a stranger. Is there someone else? I asked even though I knew the answer. No. Maybe. I don't know. He looked miserable. Sophie and I have become close. And I have feelings for her. But I swear nothing physical has happened. Yet. I'm sorry, Claire. I really am. I moved out that week. Sophie helped David pack my things, ever the supportive friend. 3 months later, David and Sophie started dating officially. They posted cute couple photos on social media. They looked happy. I looked broken. But I wasn't broken. I was ready. Nathan and I had a year's worth of evidence. Video of Sophie admitting her manipulations when she thought no one was listening. Audio of her bragging to someone on the phone about how easy David had been. Financial records showing her slowly gaining access to his accounts. And most damning, we tracked down Tom from Portland. He was willing to testify about Sophie's pattern. So was Rick from Denver. We had victims ready to tell their stories. I went to the police with everything. Detective Maria Rodriguez listened to my story with growing concern. This is extensive. She's done this before. Multiple times. And she's about to do it again. Do you think your ex-boyfriend is in danger? I thought about my original timeline, about whether David had been complicit or just naive, about whether he'd known about Sophie's plans to kill me or if he'd been shocked. I think he's being manipulated, I said. And I think when Sophie's done with him, he'll either be destroyed or dead. Maria took the case seriously. She brought in other detectives. They contacted police in Portland, Denver, Seattle. They built a case against Sophie Williams, aka Sophie Martin, aka 3 other names we discovered. But they needed one more thing. Proof of current criminal activity. She hasn't technically done anything illegal here yet, Maria said. She's dated your ex-boyfriend. That's not a crime. She's stolen from him. Technically, he's given her access to his accounts. Her name is on them legally. We need to catch her doing something actively criminal. Like what? Maria looked at the photos of Sophie's previous victims. Like attempting to harm someone. Like fraud. Like theft. Like whatever she was planning to do next. I knew what came next. In my original timeline, Sophie had convinced David to propose. They'd planned a wedding. And at that wedding I died. She's going to try to kill me, I said. What? I stopped. I couldn't tell them about being reborn. I have reason to believe Sophie is planning to harm me. She sees me as an obstacle to her future with David. Do you have proof? Not yet. But I will. I did something dangerous. I reached out to Sophie. We met at a coffee shop, the same one where we'd first met 3 years ago. Sophie arrived looking beautiful and confident. She sat across from me with a smile. Claire, this is unexpected. I wanted to apologize, I said, for how I treated you, for being paranoid and jealous. You didn't deserve that. Sophie's eyes narrowed. She was trying to figure out my angle. Thank you, she said carefully. That means a lot. I want you to know that I'm happy for you and David. You're good together. We are. And I want to move on with my life. Let go of the past. That's very mature of you. I leaned forward. There's just one thing I need to know. What's that? When were you planning to kill me? Sophie's expression didn't change. Excuse me. You've done this before. Portland, Denver, Seattle. You befriend a couple, steal the man, destroy the woman. Sometimes physically. I know who you are, Sophie. Or should I call you by one of your other names? Sophie stood up. You're insane. Am I? Or am I the first person who figured you out before you could finish your game? Stay away from me and David, Sophie said coldly. Or I'll get a restraining order. Go ahead. Add it to your collection. Sophie left the coffee shop and I watched her go. She'd been rattled. Good. That night I got a call from David. Sophie told me what you did. How you're harassing her with crazy accusations. They're not crazy, David. They're true. Claire, you need help. Professional help. I have help. I have a private investigator. I have police detectives. I have victims from 3 other cities. I have evidence. Evidence of what? That Sophie dated other people before me? That she's moved cities? That's not a crime. David, she's dangerous. No, Claire. You're what's dangerous. You're so convinced that everyone's out to get you that you can't see reality anymore. The reality is that Sophie has destroyed at least 4 relationships before yours. The reality is that 2 of her ex-boyfriends are missing or dead. The reality is that I died in another. I stopped myself, but it was too late. You died in what? David asked. Nothing. Forget it. No. What were you going to say? I was going to say that people like Sophie don't stop until someone dies. David hung up on me. 2 months later, David and Sophie got engaged. They posted photos of the proposal, David on one knee in the same restaurant where he'd first asked me to be his girlfriend. My phone rang. Nathan. She just bought tickets to Costa Rica, leaving 3 days after the wedding. Just her. Just her. David doesn't know. Of course he didn't. Because in Sophie's pattern, the wedding was never real. It was the finale of the con, the moment when she'd take everything and disappear. But this time was different. This time, Sophie had added murder to her plan. I knew because I'd lived through it. Detective Rodriguez agreed to set a trap. They'd let the wedding happen but have officers in place. They'd be monitoring Sophie constantly. If she tries anything, Maria said, we'll be there. And if she doesn't? If she just takes his money and runs? Then we have her for fraud. It's not as satisfying as catching her for attempted murder, but it's something. The wedding was planned for a Saturday in June, at a beautiful venue overlooking the water. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I was there, wearing a wire, hiding in the staff area, waiting. I watched through a window as Sophie walked down the aisle in a white dress. My dress, the one I'd had made in my original timeline. She'd somehow found the same designer, made the same choices. She was replacing me completely. David looked happy, clueless, waiting for his bride. During the reception, I watched Sophie move through the crowd, all smiles and grace. She was playing the perfect bride. Then I saw her slip away toward the kitchen. I followed with Nathan and 2 undercover officers behind me. In the kitchen, Sophie was preparing 2 champagne glasses. I watched her pull a small vial from her clutch and pour liquid into one glass. That's it, Nathan whispered into his radio. She's doing it now. Sophie carried the glasses back toward the reception. Toward David. Officers moved in. Sophie Williams, stop right there. Sophie froze, the champagne glasses in her hands. Put the glasses down slowly, Detective Rodriguez said. What's going on? Sophie's voice was confused, innocent. We need to test the contents of those glasses. This is my wedding. Put them down. Now. Sophie's mask cracked. For one moment I saw pure rage on her face. Then she threw the glasses at the officers and ran. She didn't get far. Officers tackled her before she reached the exit. Get off me. This is assault. You're under arrest for attempted murder, Maria said, cuffing her. And about a dozen other charges across multiple states. David pushed through the crowd, his face white. What the hell is happening? Your wife was about to poison someone, Maria said. That's insane. Sophie would never. The toxicology reports will prove otherwise, Nathan said, appearing beside me. Along with testimony from multiple victims, financial records, and surveillance footage. Sophie was screaming now, all pretense gone. This is her fault. She pointed at me. Claire did this. She's been sabotaging me from day one. Actually, I said, stepping forward. I've been protecting myself from day one. Since the moment I recognized you in that coffee shop and remembered the timeline where you killed me. You're insane. Sophie shrieked. Maybe. Or maybe I'm the first victim who was smart enough to fight back. David was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Claire. What? I tried to warn you, I said quietly. I tried to tell you she was dangerous, but you chose to believe her instead. But she loves me. She doesn't love anyone, David. She just likes winning. Sophie was dragged away, still screaming threats. The wedding guests stood in shocked silence. David collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. I turned to leave. Wait, David called after me. Claire, wait. I stopped. Was any of it real? He asked. Did you ever actually love me? Or was I just part of your plan to catch her? I thought about my two timelines, the one where I'd loved him desperately and died for it, and this one where I'd protected myself first. I loved you, I said. In another life, I loved you so much that it killed me. This time I chose to love myself more. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle. But I'm not sorry I survived. I walked away from that wedding, from David, from Sophie, from all of it. The trial took 8 months. Sophie was charged with attempted murder, fraud, identity theft, and a dozen other crimes across multiple states. Tom, Rick, and 2 other men testified about her pattern of destruction. The evidence was overwhelming. Sophie was sentenced to 25 years in prison. David tried to contact me during the trial. I didn't respond. He sent letters apologizing, explaining, begging for another chance. I burned them all. He'd made his choice when he'd believed Sophie over me. When he'd accused me of paranoia instead of trusting my instincts. When he'd valued a stranger's sob story over his girlfriend's concerns. I didn't blame him for being manipulated. But I also didn't owe him forgiveness. 2 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 30 years old and running my own event planning company. Ironic, considering I'd helped destroy a wedding. But there was something satisfying about creating joy for others after surviving so much darkness. Nathan became a friend. A real friend, not someone trying to destroy me. We had coffee once a month and laughed about the insanity of that year. You know what I still don't understand? He said during one of our meetings. How did you know? That first day in the coffee shop, you said you recognized her immediately. But you'd never met her before. Intuition, I lied. Some intuition. You knew exactly what she was going to do before she did it. Maybe I'd seen enough crime shows to recognize a pattern. Nathan studied my face. Or maybe you're not telling me everything. Maybe, I agreed. But does it matter? We stopped her. We did. Though sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been there. If you just let events play out. I thought about my original timeline. About dying at 28, never knowing justice, never seeing Sophie face consequences. Then she would have won, I said. And probably gone on to destroy more couples, more lives. You saved a lot of people by stopping her. I saved myself. Everything else was just a bonus. 3 years after Sophie's conviction, I met someone new. His name was Marcus, ironically the same name as the therapist in my previous story arc. But this Marcus was different. He was an architect, quiet and thoughtful, with no drama in his past. We met at a charity event I'd organized. He'd designed the building where it was held. We talked about structure and design, and the satisfaction of creating something beautiful from nothing. You're very guarded, he observed on our 3rd date. I have reasons to be. Fair enough. Everyone has their history. And yours. Boring. Grew up in the suburbs. Went to college. Became an architect. No evil ex-wives or dramatic betrayals. He smiled. Is that disappointing? It's refreshing. We dated slowly, carefully. I told him about David and Sophie eventually, not about the rebirth but about the manipulation, the investigation, the trial. That explains a lot, Marcus said after hearing the story. About why I'm guarded. About why you're strong. You survived something that destroys most people, and came out determined to build something better. Is that what I'm doing? Isn't it? You help create beautiful moments for other people. You turned your worst experience into fuel for creating joy. That's not just survival. That's transformation. 5 years after Sophie's conviction, Marcus proposed. We were standing in a building he designed. a community center for women escaping abusive relationships. This place exists because of donations from people who believe in second chances, he said. You gave yourself a second chance. Let me be part of that. I looked at the ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the elaborate one David had picked out in my original timeline. Yes, I said. But I'm keeping my name. Marcus laughed. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Our wedding was small, intimate, honest. Nathan attended, as did my sister Amy. Detective Maria Rodriguez came too, having become a friend over the years. No one wore white. We had security at the door. We tested all the food ourselves. This is the most paranoid wedding I've ever seen, Amy joked. This is the safest wedding I've ever seen, I corrected. Marcus understood. He didn't question my need for control, my careful vetting of every vendor, my insistence on transparency in everything. Whatever makes you feel secure, he said. This is your day. Our day. We do it our way. The wedding went perfectly. No drama. No betrayals. No poison. Just love. 7 years after Sophie's conviction, I received a letter forwarded from the prison. Sophie was requesting a meeting. Absolutely not, Marcus said when I told him. I know. I'm not going. Then why are you even considering it? I'm not. I stared at the letter. I wonder what she wants. To manipulate you one more time. To get under your skin. To make herself the victim again. Marcus took my hand. You don't owe her anything. Not your time, not your attention, not closure. He was right. I threw the letter away. But Sophie didn't give up. She sent more letters. They were forwarded to my lawyer, who screened them. Most were manipulation. Claiming she'd changed, found God, understood her mistakes, wanted to apologize. The final letter was different. My lawyer called me about it. Claire, you need to see this one. It's concerning. The letter was short. Dear Claire, I know you think you won. You stopped me, got me locked up, moved on with your perfect life. But you didn't win. You just delayed the inevitable. I have 20 years left on my sentence. When I get out, I'll be 53. Still young enough. Still smart enough. Still hungry enough. And I'll remember you. I'll remember that you're the only one who ever beat me. The only one who saw through me from the start. You knew things you shouldn't have known. You predicted things you couldn't have predicted. Sometimes I wonder if you're like me, if you're playing a game too, just a different one. Maybe that's why you survived when no one else did. See you in 20 years, Claire. We have unfinished business. Sophie. I read it twice, my hands shaking. She's threatening you, my lawyer said. We can use this to extend her sentence. Do it. The letter became evidence. Sophie lost privileges, got additional charges for threatening a witness. Her sentence was extended by 5 years. But her words haunted me. You knew things you shouldn't have known. She'd noticed. Somehow she'd noticed that I'd been too prepared, too knowing, too ready for her moves. Does it matter? Marcus asked when I told him. She's locked up. She'll be old when she gets out. If she comes after you, then we'll deal with it then. And if she sends someone else? If she has allies? Then we'll deal with that too. Claire, you can't live your life waiting for her to strike. That's letting her win in a different way. He was right. I couldn't let Sophie's shadow destroy my second chance at life. 10 years after Sophie's conviction, Marcus and I had a daughter. We named her Hope, because that's what she represented. Proof that good things could grow from terrible soil. She has your eyes, Marcus said, holding our baby in the hospital. And your calm temperament, I hope. You're calm. I'm vigilant. There's a difference. You're also a survivor. And you're going to raise a survivor. We raised Hope carefully. We taught her to trust her instincts, to question people's motives, to protect herself without becoming paranoid. We taught her that being kind didn't mean being naive, and that loving yourself was more important than being loved by everyone else. Why do you check all my friends' parents? Hope asked when she was 10. Because it's my job to keep you safe. But none of my friends' parents do this. None of your friends' parents have lived through what I've lived through. What did you live through? Marcus and I exchanged glances. We decided to wait until she was older to tell her the full story. I'll tell you when you're 16, I promised. For now, just trust that I have good reasons. 15 years after Sophie's conviction, Detective Rodriguez called me. Sophie's up for parole. My blood ran cold. She's only served 15 years of a 25-year sentence. Good behavior. Model prisoner. She's taken every class, gotten multiple degrees, works in the prison library. The parole board is considering early release. No. Absolutely not. That's why I'm calling. I need you to testify at her hearing. Tell them why she needs to stay locked up. Do you think it'll work? Maria was quiet. Honestly, I don't know. She's very convincing. She always has been. The parole hearing was scheduled for 2 months later. I spent those months preparing, gathering evidence, contacting Sophie's other victims, building a case for why she should never be released. Tom from Portland agreed to testify. So did Rick from Denver. So did 3 other men we'd found who'd been destroyed by Sophie in cities we hadn't known about. The hearing was held in a small sterile room. Sophie was brought in wearing prison clothes, her hair gray now, her face lined with age. But her eyes were the same, calculating, intelligent, empty. She looked at me and smiled. The parole board asked questions. Sophie answered with perfect humility. She acknowledged her crimes, expressed remorse, talked about the therapy and education she'd received in prison. I was a sick person, she said, her voice trembling with just the right amount of emotion. I hurt people because I was hurting. But I've done the work. I've changed. I'm not that person anymore. Then it was my turn to speak. Sophie Williams is the most dangerous person I've ever met, I said. Not because she's violent, although she is. Not because she's a criminal, although she is. But because she's a chameleon. She becomes whatever she needs to be to get what she wants. I pulled out the letters Sophie had sent over the years. She claims to have changed. But 2 years ago, she sent me a letter threatening to come after me when she was released. That's not change. That's patience. Sophie's lawyer objected. That letter was taken out of context. What context makes threatening a victim acceptable? I asked the board. One by one, Sophie's victims testified. Tom talked about his ex-wife's suicide attempt. Rick talked about the years it took to recover financially and emotionally. The other men shared similar stories. Lives destroyed, relationships ruined, years stolen. When everyone had spoken, the parole board deliberated. Sophie was denied parole. However, the board chair said, we'll review her case again in 5 years. If she continues to demonstrate rehabilitation, release may be reconsidered then. Sophie's face remained calm, but I saw the rage in her eyes as she was led away. 5 more years, Maria said as we left. That's something. It's not enough. It's all we have. 20 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 50 years old. Hope was 10, brilliant and independent. Marcus and I had built a good life. Successful careers, a beautiful home, genuine friendships built on trust and honesty. I'd almost forgotten to be afraid. Then I got the call. Sophie had been released. The parole board had granted her early release after 20 years, despite my testimony, despite the victims, despite everything. She completed her sentence, Maria told me over the phone. 20 years served, 5 years probation. There's nothing we can do. Where is she? I don't know. She's supposed to check in with her parole officer, but she's allowed to live anywhere in the country as long as she reports her location. I hung up and immediately called Nathan, who was now 70 but still sharp. I need surveillance, I told him. On me, on Marcus, on Hope. Sophie's out. Already on it. I've been tracking her release date. I have a team ready. Marcus came home to find me packing emergency bags. What's happening? Sophie's out. We need to be ready. Ready for what? For her to come after us. After me. Marcus pulled me into his arms. Claire, listen to me. We have security. We have lawyers. We have the police on alert. We're prepared. We were prepared last time and she still almost killed me. That was a different timeline. This time you stopped her before she could finish. You won. Did I? Or did I just delay this moment? For the next 6 months I lived in a state of hypervigilance. I saw Sophie in every crowd. I checked the locks 3 times every night. I researched self-defense, bought pepper spray, installed more cameras. Hope noticed. Mom, Why are you so scared all the time? She was 11 now, old enough to understand. Remember how I said I'd tell you my story when you were older? Sit down. I told her everything about Sophie, about the manipulation, about the trial, about the threats. I didn't tell her about being reborn, but I told her enough. She's out now, I finished. And I need you to be careful. Don't talk to strangers. Don't go anywhere alone. If anyone new tries to befriend you, tell me immediately. Hope's eyes were wide. Is she going to try to hurt us? I don't know. But I'm not taking chances. You're really brave, Mom. You stopped a bad person. I survived a bad person. There's a difference. 8 months after Sophie's release, nothing had happened. No contact, no sightings, no threats. She checked in with her parole officer regularly, was reportedly working at a library in Oregon, living quietly. Maybe she really did change, Marcus suggested. Or maybe she's planning something so carefully we can't see it coming. Claire, you can't live like this forever. I lived through her killing me once. I'll do whatever it takes to not live through it again. 1 year after Sophie's release, I was at Hope's school play when I saw her. Sophie was sitting 3 rows back watching the stage. She looked older, gray-haired, ordinary. She could have been anyone's grandmother. Our eyes met. She smiled and waved like we were old friends. I grabbed Marcus. She's here. Where? 3 rows back. Sophie. Marcus looked. I don't see anyone. I looked again. Sophie was gone. Had I imagined it? Was my paranoia making me see things that weren't there? After the play, I searched the parking lot. No sign of Sophie. Security cameras showed no one matching her description entering or leaving the building. Maybe it wasn't her, Nathan said when I called him. I've had eyes on Sophie in Oregon all day. She's there. Then who did I see? Claire, you're stressed. You're scared. Your mind is playing tricks on you. But I knew what I'd seen. Sophie had been there or someone working for her. The incidents continued over the next 6 months. A flower delivery with no sender information. A car that followed me for 3 blocks before turning away. A phone call where no one spoke, just breathing. Each time there was no proof. No evidence. Just my word that something was wrong. You're having a breakdown, my sister Amy said gently. Sophie's doing exactly what she should be doing, living quietly, staying away from you. But you can't let go. I'm not having a breakdown. Mom, Hope interrupted. She was 12 now, smart and observant. What if Aunt Amy is right? What if Sophie is leaving you alone and you're so scared that you're seeing threats that aren't there? I stared at my daughter. She was right. I was becoming what I'd feared, paranoid. Controlled by Sophie even from a distance. I need help, I admitted. I started therapy. A psychologist who specialized in trauma and PTSD. She helped me understand that surviving Sophie had changed me, that the hypervigilance was a symptom of trauma, not a character flaw. You were hunted, Dr. Sarah explained. Your brain learned to be constantly alert for danger. That served you well when Sophie was actively threatening you. But now it's preventing you from living. But she's out there. And she's shown no signs of violating her parole or coming after you. At some point, you have to accept that maybe she's actually staying away. Why would she? She promised to come back for me. People say a lot of things when they're angry. 20 years in prison changes people. Maybe she realized she doesn't want to risk going back. Over the next 2 years, with therapy and medication and support from Marcus and Hope, I slowly learned to live with less fear. I still had security, still checked locks, still vetted Hope's friends. But I wasn't controlled by terror anymore. 25 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 55 years old. Sophie would be 63 now. Her probation recently ended. Nathan called me. Sophie's off probation. She's a free woman. I know. Are you okay? I'm careful. But I'm okay. She hasn't violated probation once in 5 years. No contact with you or any of her other victims. She's kept her head down. Maybe she really did change. Or maybe she's waiting. Nathan, I can't live my life waiting for her to strike. I've spent 25 years letting her control me through fear. I'm done. Does that mean you're going to stop being careful? No. It means I'm going to live despite the fear instead of because of it. 1 month after Sophie's probation ended, I received a letter. Not forwarded from prison this time, mailed directly to my home address. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Claire, you were right. I haven't changed. Not really. 25 years in prison didn't make me a better person. It just made me a more patient one. But here's what I learned. Revenge is exhausting. Hate is a burden. And you're not worth carrying that burden anymore. I spent the first 15 years of my sentence planning what I'd do to you when I got out. How I'd destroy your life the way you destroyed mine. How I'd take everything from you slowly, methodically, perfectly. Then I spent the next 10 years realizing that you didn't destroy my life. I did. You were just the first person smart enough to stop me. I don't know how you knew what I was planning. I don't know how you stayed one step ahead of me. But you did. And that makes you either incredibly lucky or incredibly dangerous yourself. Either way you win. I'm done. I'm 63 years old. I'm tired. I want to spend whatever years I have left not planning revenge, not hurting people, not proving I can outsmart someone. I want to be left alone. And I want to leave you alone. This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. I'm moving to a small town in Montana where no one knows who I am. I'm going to work at a library and live a quiet life. I'm going to fade away until I'm forgotten. You beat me, Claire. That's not a concession. That's a fact. You saw me when no one else did. You stopped me when no one else could. You won. Enjoy your victory. You earned it. Sophie. I read the letter 3 times. Marcus read it over my shoulder. Do you believe her? He asked. I don't know. What does your gut say? My gut, which had saved me from Sophie twice, told me something surprising. This was real. Sophie was tired. She'd given up. I think she means it, I said slowly. I think she really is done. Are you going to respond? No, because responding means opening a dialogue. And I never want to speak to her again. I burned the letter in our fireplace. Marcus and I watched it turn to ash. Is it finally over? He asked. Maybe. Or maybe this is just her longest game yet. What will you do? Life my life. Stay careful but not paralyzed. Protect my family but not to the point of imprisonment. I turned to Marcus. I survived her twice. I'll survive her a third time if I have to. But I didn't have to. As far as I know, Sophie kept her word. She moved to Montana. She worked at a library. She lived quietly. And I lived loudly. I expanded my business. I watched Hope grow into a strong, confident young woman. I celebrated my 20th wedding anniversary with Marcus. I became a grandmother. 30 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 60 years old and sitting on my porch when Nathan, now 85, called one last time. Sophie died, he said. Heart attack. Died in her sleep in Montana. How do you know? I've been keeping tabs. Old habit. Thought you'd want to know. Did she hurt anyone else? Not that I can find. Lived alone. Worked at the library. Died alone. That's sad. Is it? She was a person, Nathan. A broken, dangerous person. But still a person. I survived her. She died alone. That's sad. After Nathan hung up, I sat on my porch for a long time, thinking about Sophie. About the woman who tried to steal my life twice and failed both times. About the choice I'd made in that coffee shop to stay vigilant instead of trusting. Everything okay? Marcus asked, joining me. Sophie died. How do you feel? Free. Finally, completely free. 35 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 65 years old and preparing to retire from my event planning business. Hope had taken over most of the operations, running it with the same careful attention I'd built it with. You taught me well, she said during my retirement party. I taught you to be vigilant. You taught me to be strong, to trust my instincts, to protect myself without becoming paranoid. She hugged me. You survived something terrible and built something beautiful. That's what I learned from you. At the party, surrounded by friends and family and clients whose lives I'd helped celebrate, I thought about my 2 timelines. In my first life, I died at 28, betrayed by the people I trusted most. In this life, I'd lived to 65, surrounded by people who'd earned my trust over years of consistency. The difference was one choice: to recognize Sophie in that coffee shop and protect myself instead of trusting blindly. Marcus gave a toast. To Claire, who taught us all that kindness doesn't mean naivety, that love doesn't mean self-sacrifice, and that the strongest thing you can do is choose yourself first. 40 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 70 years old. Marcus had passed away 2 years earlier, peacefully in his sleep after a long happy life. Hope had 2 children of her own. I was a great-grandmother to twin boys who reminded me every day that life was worth fighting for. Nathan had passed away too at 90. His funeral had been full of people he'd helped over his career. Cases solved, victims saved, justice served. At his funeral, I'd thought about how lucky I'd been to find someone who believed me when my own boyfriend didn't. Who helped me stop a predator when everyone else thought I was crazy. Amy threw me a 70th birthday party. All my loved ones attended. Hope and her family, my longtime clients who'd become friends, my colleagues from the event planning business. During the party, Hope's daughter, my granddaughter Emma, named after my sister, asked me a question. Grandma, people say you're a survivor. What did you survive? Everyone went quiet. They all knew the story, but hearing it from me was different. I survived someone who tried to destroy me, I said. Twice. How did you do it? I paid attention. I trusted my instincts. I chose myself over being liked. And I never gave up, even when everyone told me I was wrong. Were you scared? Terrified. Every single day for years. But I was more scared of dying than I was of living with fear. What happened to the bad person? She went to prison. She grew old. She died alone. Did you forgive her? I thought about that. Did I forgive Sophie? I made peace with what she did to me, I said carefully. I let go of the anger because carrying it was hurting me more than her. But forgiveness? No. Some things aren't meant to be forgiven. They're meant to be survived and learned from. What did you learn? That I'm stronger than I thought. That choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. That trust should be earned, not given freely. And that surviving something terrible doesn't make you broken. It makes you forged. 45 years after Sophie's conviction, I was 75 years old and slowing down. My health was declining, arthritis, heart issues, the natural progression of a long life lived fully. Hope visited every week, sometimes with her children, sometimes alone. Tell me the story again, she asked during one visit. About Sophie and how you stopped her. You've heard it 100 times. Tell me again anyway. So I told her. About the coffee shop. About recognizing evil. About the choice to protect myself. About the years of gathering evidence. About the trial and conviction. About surviving when everyone said I was wrong. You changed your fate, Hope said when I finished. I chose my fate, I corrected. There's a difference. What's the difference? Fate is what happens to you. Choice is what you decide to do about it. I could have ignored my instincts in that coffee shop. I could have trusted Sophie despite my concerns. I could have let her destroy me because it was easier than fighting back. But you didn't. But I didn't. And that choice gave me 47 extra years of life. Gave me you. It gave me everything good in my life. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made a different choice? I thought about my first timeline. Dying at 28, poisoned by my best friend, mourned by no one. I don't wonder, I said. I remember. And I'm grateful every day that I chose differently. 6 months later, I had a major heart attack. I survived, but the doctors told me I didn't have much time left. Weeks, they said. Maybe a month. Hope brought my great-grandchildren to visit. Emma, now 15, sat by my bedside. Are you scared, Grandma? Of dying? No. I've lived a long, full life. I survived what I was meant to survive. Accomplished what I was meant to accomplish. Loved and was loved in return. What's the most important thing you learned in your life? I thought about 75 years of living, 53 of them in this timeline, built on one choice in a coffee shop. That you're the only person who will always be there for you, I said. Friends will come and go. Partners will change. Family will have their own lives. But you? You're with yourself every single day for your entire life. So choose yourself. Protect yourself. Love yourself. Everything else will follow from that. Did you choose yourself? Eventually. It took dying once to learn the lesson. But once I learned it, I never forgot. You died once. I smiled. In a manner of speaking. 3 weeks later, I died peacefully in my sleep, surrounded by family at 75 years old. At my funeral, Hope gave the eulogy. My mother taught me many things. She taught me to plan beautiful events. She taught me to trust my instincts. She taught me to be kind without being naive. But the most important thing she taught me was that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Mom survived something that destroys most people. She was hunted by someone dangerous, betrayed by someone she loved, and accused of paranoia when she tried to protect herself. But she never gave up. She never stopped trusting herself, even when everyone else doubted her. She stopped a predator. She saved not just herself, but countless other potential victims. She built a life worth living out of the ashes of a life destroyed. And she did it all because of one choice: to pay attention when her instincts screamed danger, to protect herself when no one else would, to choose survival over politeness. That's her legacy. Not the wedding she planned or the business she built, but the example she set, that you can survive the unsurvivable if you're brave enough to trust yourself. After the funeral, my granddaughter Emma found something in my papers, a letter I'd written years ago, to be opened after my death. To whoever finds this, my name is Claire Anderson. I died twice, once at 28, poisoned by my best friend at what I thought was my wedding, and again at 75, peacefully in my sleep surrounded by family. The difference between those two deaths is one choice I made in a coffee shop when I was 25 years old. I recognized evil when I saw it. I chose to protect myself instead of being kind. I trusted my instincts over social expectations. That choice gave me 47 extra years of life. It gave me a career, a true marriage, a daughter, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It gave me everything. If you're reading this, you probably think I'm either incredibly paranoid or incredibly smart. Maybe I'm both. But I'm also incredibly alive, or I was for 75 years. So here's my advice from someone who died twice. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Choose yourself. Always. Every time. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Being kind doesn't mean being vulnerable. Loving yourself is more important than being loved by others. You can survive anything if you're brave enough to prioritize your own survival. I don't know if I was reborn or if I just had incredibly accurate intuition about Sophie. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I listened to that inner voice that screamed danger when everyone else saw a friend. That voice saved my life. Listen to yours. If you're facing something similar, if someone in your life feels wrong, if your instincts are screaming, believe them. Protect yourself. You're not paranoid. You're not crazy. You're not mean. You're smart. You're strong. You're choosing life. Choose wisely. Choose yourself. Choose life. With love and survival, Claire Anderson. Emma read the letter at her high school graduation, sharing her great-grandmother's story with her classmates. My great-grandmother taught me that the bravest thing you can do is trust yourself, she told the crowd. Even when everyone else thinks you're wrong. Even when it costs you relationships. Even when it makes you unpopular. Because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And survival is the foundation for everything else good in your life. The letter went viral on social media. Thousands of people shared it. Women recognized their own situations in Sophie's pattern. Men recognized behaviors they'd enabled. Everyone learned something about trusting instincts. And somewhere in whatever comes after, I smiled. Because my one choice, to recognize Sophie and choose myself, had rippled out beyond my own life. I'd survived. I'd thrived. I taught my daughter and granddaughter to do the same. And my story was helping others choose survival too. That was my legacy. Not the weddings I planned. Not the business I built. But the proof that you can choose yourself and still live a life full of love. That you can survive betrayal and still trust again. That you can be strong without being cruel. Careful without being paranoid. Protective without being closed off. I died twice. Once as a victim, once as a survivor. The difference was one choice made in one moment in one coffee shop. And that choice changed everything.